everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel Rather Be Reading, and today I'm bringing to you a recent reads video. It has been a week since I last checked in for a recent reads video. I've had another pretty good reading week this week, which I'm really happy with. I managed to complete a total of 7 books this week, which, like I said, really happy with that. So let's jump straight in and talk about all 7 books that I completed this week. So the very first book that I completed was The Secrets They Left Behind by Lisa Marie Redmond. This is a digital copy that I received in exchange for an honest review through NetGalley, and it was published on the 7th of April. So this book is out and published if you're interested in picking yourself up a copy to read. This is a thriller. Well, mystery thriller. It's about you know what I mean. It's about a police detective who, I think she's 23, if I recall, but she looks about 18, like she looks very young. And she ends up being used by the FBI as an undercover operative. And in this case, it's in a small town where there's a college campus, like a community college, and there were 3 girls who were like freshmen in college, they're like 18, who went missing. They'd been at a party and then they returned to one of the girls' house and then were just never seen or heard from again. It's the mystery of that. And so this police detective is sent in undercover to try to infiltrate the friendship groups and all of the people that they went to college with and try to figure out what happened to these girls. This I had mixed feelings on. So this author, Lisa Marie Redmond, is actually an ex-police detective. And I actually, from what I could tell from some reviews, it seems like she has a more like police procedural type series, which has gotten some pretty good reviews. Because I was surprised when I realized that she was a police detective, because I didn't buy into a lot of the like police stuff that was happening in this story. And I did like, so the police detective herself doesn't work for the FBI. She's just being used by the FBI. She's just a normal like police detective. And I did like that some of the commentary in there on the way that the FBI will like kind of like by any means necessary to like catch someone, and they don't really care who they tread on in the process. And I kind of liked all of the stuff about that. The mystery itself was pretty predictable to me. Having said that, and I mean this in the least pretentious way possible, but I do think that for more beginner thriller readers, that this could have a good misdirect in it, but to me it was just pretty obvious. And it was just like very like middle of the road type of story for me. There was nothing like amazing in there that I liked. And also I didn't love that the ending was a bit too like nicey for me, which I don't love. So in the end, I gave that 3 stars. The next book that I completed is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. This is a literary fiction basically following a Chinese-American family living in the 1970s in a small town in Ohio. And we're following the family following the death of their middle child, their daughter, Lydia. She was found dead in the lake near their home. And it's basically just following the family and how they cope with that. But there's a lot of interesting like kind of commentary in there. You get a lot of, obviously there's a little bit of stuff in there about like racism. They are a Chinese American family. Having said that, the mother is white. So it's a mixed race family. The mother is white, the father is Chinese, and the children are obviously mixed race. And it's in the 1970s, so obviously there is like some racial stuff around that. Not that there necessarily wouldn't be today, but it was, you know, we're talking 50 years ago. So there's some stuff around that. There's also a lot about, in here, I found the themes in here are like about our own upbringings and how the way that we're brought up can affect the way that we behave in our future relationships. Stuff like that I really enjoyed. Celeste Ng's writing is incredible. I'm not a skim reader at all, but you know how sometimes you get those books where your eyes will kind of flick ahead to, you know, kind of get to the next bit sometimes because you're trying to like kind of, you know, get through the story sometimes. That is not the case with her writing. Like, you just kind of drink up every word from Celeste Ng. She just has this really fantastic writing style. Like, I really, really loved her writing. Having said that, well, I did really enjoy this. It didn't quite hit the like emotional punch that I thought I was going to get out of this story, but I did really, really enjoy it. And in the end, I gave this 4 stars. The next book that I completed was Arcana Rising by Cressley Cole. This is the 4th book in the Arcana Chronicles. This is a YA paranormal post-apocalyptic series. It is set in a post-apocalyptic world where every several hundred years there is some kind of huge event that causes the beginning of a game, which is a game where there are 22 people who each embody a different one of the major arcana, or arcana, however you pronounce it, of the tarot. And basically it's a big fight to the death. It's the last arcana standing is then immortal for several hundred years until the next game starts. And so that's the story that we're following. This, like I said, is book 4, and I have done this a few times recently. I thought this was the penultimate book in the series. There is one more published, and I thought the one more published was the final book. And I wasn't sure how I was going to read that because my library doesn't have a copy, and the ebook's kind of like, I don't want to pay that much for the ebook because it's kind of expensive. But then when I got to the end of this, and then it said, where does it say it? I can't remember exactly where anyway, it referenced the, like it's a sneak peek for the penultimate book in the series, and I was like, oh, and then I looked into it further, and there are actually supposed to be 6 books, so there is still a 6th to still be published, so there's technically 2 more after this. So this is pretty short. It's only, like, it's 260 pages, and this book basically didn't need to exist. Nothing happens. This felt like a real unnecessary book in the series. I feel like there are a few elements in here that maybe you could have incorporated either like into book 3 or into book 5, depending on how much that's got in it, but this book to me was just incredibly pointless. Nothing happens. The main character was kind of annoying in this one, and there's just, yeah, nothing really happens, and it just felt incredibly pointless. In the end, I gave this one 2.75 stars. I then listened on audio to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. This one is, of course, narrated by, there's 2 versions, so it's not of course. I'm listening to the versions narrated by Stephen Fry. This is a reread, obviously, and I love this series so much, and I enjoyed this audiobook so much. Prisoner of Azkaban is definitely one of my favorites in the series, I think. I don't know, like, I feel like Prisoner of Azkaban is where it really starts to get good. Like, obviously, book 1 and 2 are good, but, like, Prisoner of Azkaban is where it really starts to get good. I really, really enjoyed it, obviously. Obviously, I gave it 5 stars again. That's the next book that I read. I then read The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. I buddy read this with Chloe from Always Booked. I will leave a link to her channel down below for you guys to check out. So this is YA contemporary. We're following a character named Andy who has always led kind of a very structured life. She kind of has a plan and a goal, like a 5-year goal. She knows that she's going to finish high school and go to college and med school and be a doctor, and, you know, she's got all of the steps planned out in order to get there. She is the daughter of is it a senator? I think he's a senator, and it's just her and her dad is a single father, and they live very, obviously, like a kind of a rigid, structured life around her dad being in politics. However, at the start of this novel, her dad has been involved in some kind of scandal politically, and that throws everything in disarray. The summer program that she is supposed to be starting that year to help with, you know, all of the stuff that she needs to get into college, because she's entering her final year of high school, like I believe it's the summer before senior year, and that gets cancelled. She can't enter that program, and so she's left at a bit of a loose end and ends up taking a job as a dog walker, and that's just kind of about her adventures over the summer. This is my 4th Morgan Matson. I've read everything published up until this point. I just haven't read her most recent one, Save the Date, but I've loved everything by Morgan Matson that I've read, and this was no exception. I did really, really enjoy this. I really liked the main character and the friendship group. I thought Morgan Matson just has a way to me of writing characters and friendships and situations that all just felt quite real. Like there were, when Chloe and I buddy read this, when we were like talking over Voxer, like there were a couple of different situations in this that I was like, I remember being in an exact situation like this and having situations or feelings like this come up through like reasons like this in high school. Like it just, like it brought up a lot of like, this is legit, like this happens in friendship groups. So I really enjoyed all of that. There's like a love interest, obviously. I really, really liked him. He's like my favorite character. It's not my favorite Morgan Matson. Like it's probably my least favorite in fact, but it's still a 4-star. Like I did really genuinely enjoy it, and I just really like Morgan Matson's writing, and I look forward to continuing on and reading whatever she publishes. The next book that I read, I listened to on audio, and that is Know My Name by Chanel Miller, which is read by Chanel Miller herself, which is fantastic. This is nonfiction. It's a memoir, I guess. It's about, so Chanel Miller, in case you don't know, is the victim of, well, the survivor of a sexual assault by Brock Turner, and it became quite a publicized case at the time. It happened at a college party, but Chanel was not a college student. She'd gone to a party with her younger sister, and however, Brock Turner was a student at the university and was quite a highly praised, like highly awarded swimmer, and that became very prevalent in the case because while he did end up being found guilty of the sexual assault against Chanel, he was given a ridiculously light sentence. And there was a lot of referencing in the sentencing and in everything about how he had such a bright future ahead of him as a swimmer, and how the actions of this 20 minutes should not affect the rest of his life. And obviously one of the main themes in there is like people saying that were on like kind of Brock's side, I guess, saying that they shouldn't let this 20 minutes affect his future, but how there's no way that that 20 minutes cannot affect her future. And so Chanel Miller was anonymous during most of the trial. She was known as Emily Doe. But she decided to come out publicly with her victim impact statement following the sentencing. And that's kind of, I mean, the case had already, I think, been quite a lot in the media, but that's when it really blew up. Her victim impact statement went viral, and a lot of people were really affected by it. And this book was just amazing. The story and obviously the message and everything behind it was always going to speak to me. I've talked a lot about on my channel how I rape fiction and stuff about, well, not rape fiction because it isn't fiction, rape fiction and non-fiction and stuff about rape culture and all of that in our society I find very important. I really enjoy reading about. So this was always going to speak to me. Having said that, I think that Chanel Miller is actually a really fantastic writer. I think that she writes very well in this. It doesn't feel like, you know, sometimes when you read a non-fiction book or a memoir and it can feel very much like, you can tell it's not a writer who's written it. This did not feel like that at all. And obviously it was just such a powerful story. This is the type of thing that I think should be required reading for anyone who's in any kind of situation that is going to be dealing with rape victims or sexual assault victims, like police officers, even people who are there to help the victim, like, you know, victim support people, judges, lawyers, district attorneys, public defenders, defense attorneys, anyone who is going to be dealing with anything like this, I think this should be a required reading. It is so obviously sad to think that, like, you know, there's a lot in there about the privilege of someone that, you know, he is a white, privileged male, and that because of that, there is a certain amount of things that he can get away with, or not suffer the same consequences that someone in a different position may have suffered. So I don't want to go too much into it because I could talk about this for forever. I thought this was just a brilliant book. I highly encourage you, if this isn't too difficult a subject matter, for you to check this out. It's definitely worth a read, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, obviously, in case you couldn't tell. And the final book that I read this week was In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. This is my first Ruth Ware and is her debut novel. And obviously Ruth Ware has become incredibly popular. I have been interested in reading Ruth Ware since I very first heard about this one, her debut. And I just haven't gotten around to picking anything up by her, but I have been wanting to, since I first heard about her, read her books in publication order. Because from what I've heard from a lot of people, it seems like her books just keep getting better as they go on. And she's really kind of evolving as an author. So this one is about a woman who gets an invitation to a hen night or a bachelorette party, for those of you in the United States. And she is a bit confused because it's a hen party for a woman who she hasn't talked to in about 10 years, as someone who she was very good friends with in high school, but there's been some situations that have happened and she is no longer really, like, they're just not friends anymore. And so she finds it very odd that she gets this request to attend the hen party, but decides to go along. And the hen party is at this, it's like a weekend away at like a house in the middle of some woods. And she gets there and, you know, stuff happens. So I kind of went into this with low expectations, even though I'd been excited when I first kind of heard about this. Then it kind of got disappointing reviews. And like I said, then everyone kind of said, then they read the next Ruth Ware and then said, oh, I don't know how I feel about that one. And then it just kind of kept getting better and better with her. So I kind of went into this thinking that it would probably be like enjoyable enough, but that I was really kind of reading it to be a stepping stone so that I could watch an author really evolve and really get to her really like good stuff, so to speak. But then in the first half of this in particular, I was really, really enjoying this. I really like the setting. I really like an isolated, you know, in a house in the middle of nowhere, creepy woods. I'm really into that type of thing. I really enjoyed that. I'm into every thriller trope there is, basically. I love, you know, there being secrets and everyone not really, you know, there's things slowly trying to come out and you're trying to figure out like what happened in the past and why these people are doing this or what secrets they've got. I love all of that. So the first half of this in particular, I was really enjoying. However, then you kind of get to the second half of the story and it kind of, I won't spoil anything, but it kind of changes in structure, almost the way that the story is told. And I really didn't love the way that the second half of this was structured. It just really didn't really work for me. It is also pretty predictable, and then I didn't super love the ending, but overall, like, it was an enjoyable reading experience. And like I said, I'm very excited to continue on with Ruth Ware as an author and keep reading her stuff and go on a journey with the author. So this one I gave 3.5 stars. So that's everything I read. In terms of my current read, I'm actually currently reading Last Girls by Dimitra Brodsky. This is another NetGalley arc that I have. This one is published, I think, on the 5th of May, so I think this one is out already as well. This is a YA... what genre would I put it in? I'm not really sure. It's about 3 sisters. We're following the eldest sister, and they are living in a... So they're not living... I mean, they're kind of... they refer to it as preppers. I have always kind of more thought, like, in my head, I would have called them survivalists. You know, they are involved in a community. They live in a community of people who are always training and preparing for like the end days through whatever means that may be. It may be because of like there are several references in the story to like the president of the United States putting the country in a great position, and that there may be nuclear warfare, or it could be a zombie apocalypse, or for whatever reason that if the country or the world breaks down, that they're kind of prepping to be prepared for that. And they live on a compound, and that's kind of what it's about. It's got kind of a speculative twist, I think. Like I said, I'm not all the way through. I'm only about a third of the way through. There is also another kind of perspective that you get that I can't really tell you anything about because I don't really know anything about it yet, but obviously the 2 storylines are kind of going to tie in together at some point. I really don't know how I feel about it. It's one of those books where as you're reading it, you're just like, am I liking this or am I not liking this? I don't know. It's going to be one of those ones that I'm really just going to have to see where it goes to figure out whether I enjoyed it or not. So that is what I'm currently reading. And that is everything that I read this week. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, if you've got any thoughts on them, or to chat about what you guys have been reading, what you've been loving, what you've been hating. I would love to chat in the comments down below. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. That is all I have for this video today. Bye guys!